get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
What should we, as colleagues and in our workplaces or in our friend circles or whatever, what can we do to encourage people to engage and take that step and go through the door? Because often it won't be the person that, well, in some cases, I guess someone will think, right, I need to go and do this. But what can we do and what should we be looking for?
I think, I mean, first of all, in terms of looking for things, a good rule of thumb is any change in behaviour is normally a good sign that something is going on or something has happened. I think it's difficult, isn't it? We talk a lot about Andy's Man Club about guys taking responsibility, and you want to provide that support. You want to take all the needs to make that first step, to walk through that door, no matter how scary, how intimidating. And we hear a lot about guys that will come and turn up at a venue and sit in the car and not get out of their car for weeks before they make that first step. Because, I mean, we can all come up with 1,000 excuses why not to walk through that door for the first time, right? But we need guys to take that responsibility, because the more you kind of take that responsibility off them as individuals, the less likely that it's actually going to be sustainable. For instance, if I give you an example, if we were to run a taxi service in a local area, so Russell mentioned the Altrincham group. So if we had a couple of guys that went, do you know what? If anyone's struggling to get through the door, we'll come and pick them up. We'll come and pick them up. Absolutely, not a problem. We'll come and pick you up. We'll bring you through the door, so that you know what to all that kind of stuff. Well, what happens next week? What happens if your car breaks down? What happens if the individual who said that they'll go and drive around can't come? And then what you'll tend to find is that individual that's being picked up will then almost probably expect to be picked up the next week, and the next week, and the next week, and the next week. And actually what you've done is you've taken off a whole lot of responsibility. So while you're doing something that's really kind and really kind, yeah, definitely. And I think it's human nature when people are struggling, is when they're looking for that additional support, is unfortunately, if the whole saying of give an inch, they'll take a mile. And that's not meant to be sounding kind of disparaging at anybody, or saying that they're out of order for wanting to get that additional support. It's not that at all. But if you want to get better, if you want to feel better, if you want to live happier, if you want to do all those kind of things, you do that by taking responsibility for your own actions, not by relying on somebody else to do it. Everything is that kind of always looking for someone else to blame, and that kind of victim mentality, which doesn't help you in the long run. And I always say, like, the first night I walked through the door at Andy's Man Club, I was blaming the whole world for the situation that I was in. It was everybody's fault apart from mine. Yeah. And there were things that happened to me, and I had postnatal depression, and there were things that happened during that I was never expecting, never thought could even happen to me. And it wasn't my fault that I got postnatal depression, but I was blaming everybody else, and I wasn't taking actual responsibility. And we look at that with things like guys are 30% more likely to become dependent on alcohol, and drugs and things along those lines. And you theory, well, I don't feel great, I don't feel well, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, even from my own experience, I was using alcohol as a numbing method. I wasn't drinking to have fun and be social. I was drinking to stop feeling pain. And when you look at that and you go, oh, I feel really bad, oh, I've got a hangover, I've got this, I've got the other, oh, it's not my fault, it's because this is going on, I've got this going on and stuff. And it's like, well, I'm never going to feel better until I stop drinking 8 pints on a random Tuesday night because I've had a good day, bad day, or indifferent day. It doesn't matter. So it required me to take responsibility for how I thought and how I acted, to do what was right for me, to make me feel better and put me in the best position to start to deal with the issues that I kind of had. So a lot of that with AMC comes with, like, we won't do referrals to other charities. We'll signpost, but we won't do referrals, because again, that takes responsibility away from one of our biggest things is within the groups is we don't give advice, because giving advice, I think guys are pretty crap at it, to be honest with you. In general, we're pretty bad at giving advice. we do it from a good place, and we do it because we're well-meaning, but we don't fully, you're never going to fully understand what's brought somebody to that place anyway. You're not going to understand it. And the chances are you're going to give advice for something that works for you, not for them. And that's quite dangerous, because it also potentially devalues that person's concerns and issues and worries and all those kind of things. But the biggest thing is, if Russell came to me and said, oh, I've got this problem, and I said, right, what you should be doing is this, this, and this. He goes off and does it. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
He's blaming me, isn't he? He's not taking responsibility for that action. Whereas if he comes to me with an issue and I say, well, actually, I've been through something similar and this is what I tried, that's then on him to then take that on and go, well, do I actually want to try that or do I not? But he's taking that responsibility. So again, it seems like a kind of a small nuance in terms of why we do what we do within AMC, but it's a really, really important one.
It is, and that is a subtle difference between coaching and mentoring, and actually empowering that person, not do what I do and follow it like a recipe, but actually empowering that person to get to where they need to get to.
Yeah, we don't tell anyone to get up at, we don't tell anyone to get up at 5 a.m, go to the gym for 3 hours, have a cold shower and do whatever else.
Stand on the grass and get the morning rays, no?
Yeah, we don't do what the LinkedIn influencers like to tell everybody that we should do for high achievement. It's just, if that works for you, good on you, great. But
it's interesting. Do you know what's interesting as well is that when you said that, about how do we get people through the door and make that first step, you know, one of the interesting things now that I've been through that is that you don't necessarily have to sit there and think, oh, I've got an issue with this, or, you know, like when you're saying taking that responsibility, you know, now that I've been through, when you hear you verbalize the thing that's in your life and you hear yourself talking about it, part of it is like, you're almost, oh God, I'm saying this out loud now, and I'm actually talking through it and rationalizing it myself, and it's all coming out. And you're doing it in an environment that you would never do in maybe your close family, people that you do know, because A, it might involve them, but B, you have a very different relationship with those people, you know, and actually you don't want to risk those relationships when you start talking, because you don't know how that conversation is going to go. But when you're actually in a room full of strangers and then you start voicing and verbalizing the challenges that you've got, or the views that you've got, or the whatever it is, it very much becomes cathartic. It's very therapeutic, and it's very like, God, and it's not about having, you know, a specific mental illness or a whatever. It's actually, this is what's occupying my mind now, and it's distracting my normal life or normal behavior. Right now, I understand this now. It doesn't have to be. It could be just something that's going on in your life, and certainly from my experience, it's ranged from some people that are going through some really, really challenging things to some people that have just got something that's occupying their mind now, and it's changed their character, has changed what their behavior, and it could be a small thing to them. It could be a small thing to you. It's a big thing to them, and it's really sort of changing what they do on a daily basis. But yeah, that sort of outside of that normal friendship circle, it's very, very, very cathartic, and it's I think now that I've been through that, God, you know, why wasn't I doing this a year ago, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? You know, I'll take 5 years ago, but they were, when was 2017? Was it? Can't go back too far.
We're 7 years old now.
7 years now.
Yeah. So we talk about quite openly about the fact that we're not a shit game of top trumps. Like, whatever your issues are, they're the most important ones.
Absolutely.
It's not about comparing, well, such and such has got that going on, and that does happen. Listen, the people are human; they're always going to compare it in one way or another. But very, very quickly within every single group, they'll be reminded that whatever their issues are the most important, because.
So you mentioned about this setting up new groups and locations and that sort of thing, and obviously as an industry, we've got a massive estate. We've got, I think, we probably, between Russell and myself, we probably could rattle off easily about 50 different locations across the UK of companies who would be really happy to open their doors and support and run sessions. So 2 questions around that. Are they always face-to-face? Is there any online model
Yeah, do you want me to answer that one first?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we've got 100. Well, let's say we've got 141 clubs at the moment. That's 140 physical and 1 online. So to give you an example, on Monday we had about 80 people online. So we split them into smaller groups, as we will do in the physical groups. You're never in a group of more than 15, 16 guys, really. We always try and aim to get our groups between sort of 10 and 15 people, just so they can get the full experience of peer support. So yeah, so people can access online if there isn't a physical group. And so yeah, so that's the first one. Sorry, I jumped in a bit quick there. What's
That's fine.
What's the second question?
Well, my second question's changed now. How do the online people get biscuits? Like that. I thought that was the have to bring their own
Unfortunately for them, we do not send biscuits out to each and every individual, which is something that I will raise with our general manager when she returns back to the office on Monday, because I realised that we're potentially discriminating against those that can't make physical. So
no, so my
apologies to everyone accessing online.
My other question was linked to signposting. So I will talk about this to everybody who will listen. So and I'm thinking of a few things that are coming up that if we can get you or somebody from your team involved in, it would be absolutely amazing. But how can we, in a safe way, signpost or raise awareness? Is there something that, maybe it's something that is a digital leaflet that companies could put on their website, for example, just to say, not necessarily endorsing Andy's Man Club, but it's somewhere to go? Or is that how organizations do it? What would be
so there's multiple ways in terms of organization, how we interact with organizations. So from a resource point of view, any organization that wants to have our posters, our business cards, our beer mats, if you're a kind of a hospitality type venue, all these kind of different merchandise that we kind of offer. If anyone emails info@andysmanclub.co.uk and asks for a pack like that, we will send that out, and we do that fairly regularly. And then you tend to find that you go to places and you go into the bathroom, certainly the men's bathroom, and there's Andy's Man Club posters up around and all these kind of different bits. So that's great for awareness. The other thing, organizations that we do a lot of is deliver talks, awareness talks into organizations. So the talks are free of charge. However, we are 100% donation-led charity. So we always appreciate a donation in return of delivering a talk. And it's generally a 45-minute talk, including time for Q&A within that. And it's a talk about the history of Andy's Man Club, what it's about, why we exist, what we do, all those kind of different bits. There's always a personal story from whoever's delivering that talk as well around those things. And then one of the I suppose the additional things that we're looking at are probably certainly going forward is we do a huge number of events around the UK, a massive number, and that's only getting bigger. So when we do events, we will generally use whoever the closest group is. We'll speak to the facilitator, speak to some of the members, can someone man a stand and all those kind of things. What we've always had, but we've never been very good at, is people getting in touch saying, I don't use your clubs, but I'd like to support you. I'd like to volunteer. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. And if I'm honest, we get a lot, like, women are our biggest champions, like absolutely 100%. Our biggest champions are women. A lot of us guys have gone through the door because of women, and I'm no different, because of women in our lives that have either thrust a leaflet in front of our faces, or in my case, I always say enthusiastically encourage, stroke given an ultimatum, to kind of get through the door. So they're our biggest champions, and we get a lot of women that do want to support us, but obviously can't turn up on a Monday because they're not men. So from the events side, and we've got loads planned for next year specifically, and some really big things. So there's things like that organizations, that more and more we're becoming the charity partner for a lot of organizations. A lot more companies are doing things like charity days, where they're obviously allowing staff to have time off to do something specific for a charity. And it's fantastic. So what we're looking at is how can we facilitate that? How can we enable an organisation who's kind enough to nominate us to raise awareness or raise money or whatever that, how can we then facilitate that our stock answer to up to date has been the best thing you can do is just like and share stuff on social media, and that's lovely, that's great, but that's not really,
it's not a call to action, is it? Yeah,
you're doing that anyway, probably, if you want
Yeah.
to champion what we do. So by things like for argument's sake, we did our very first event. So in 7 years going, we did our very first event this year, which was a 10k run in Delamere Forest. We were able, for people that had been in touch, we were actually able to say, well, we've got a volunteering option here where you can come along and you can be a steward for the race. You can do all this. Now that's going to be bigger and better. There's more events that are always going to be bigger and better because that's the way Andy's Man Club operates. So there's going to be loads of opportunities going forward where organisations and anybody that wants to get involved, I would say that email info@andysmanclub.co.uk, and we will get your name added to whatever list we're creating to enable people to support us as a charity in our growth, because as we continue to grow, and we are growing at a significant rate, and we'll continue to do so, we will need more people to be involved. And if you look at it from a Greater Manchester point of view, so if you look at all the clubs in Greater Manchester, I'd say we're probably doing 15 events this weekend in and around Greater Manchester, just as a location. And we've had to turn down an event because we haven't got enough people to kind of cover that off. So we've actually had to turn down an event because we haven't got enough people. Because at the moment, like I say, our way is getting the guys that go to the groups to is anyone free to volunteer. But we also appreciate that, like, volunteering time at a weekend when it's family time, when it's difficult it's really difficult to do. So we do need some more extra support within that. We've just got to make sure that we're set up to be able to accommodate that, rather than somebody's got a phone number in a phone somewhere. Because if you're relying on my memory to do anything, and also my speed in returning emails, as you've both found out over the last few weeks, it can be a challenge.
If somebody did want to volunteer and wanted to, do you offer training? Does it, in terms of the facilitators, are facilitators people who've gone through the process, or are they?
Every single facilitator has started off by walking through the door.
Right.
Every member of staff that we have, every male member of staff that we have, started off by walking through the door. Have then become facilitators, have then got roles within the organisation. We are 100% that way. Even if you look at the women that work in our office, it's a little bit different now, but sort of certainly previously, the women that were involved, that were employed, actually started off by volunteering for us. To make everyone aware, and I don't mind saying this publicly, is we want an Andy's Man Club within every town and city in the UK. We're 10% of the way of where we need to be in terms of number of clubs. So when you look at that, we've been going for 7 years. We're give or take doubling in size every year, and we need to continue that. We need to continue that growth, and for that we need more people.
That's amazing.
This whole thing started because I felt that there was not enough being shouted about, and I think at the end of the day, that there is, men's mental health. I don't think people talk about it enough, and I don't think people, they feel like it's a weakness if they say, "Oh, I'm in therapy," or I see a therapist, and they talk through that, and they see it as a weakness rather than they see it as anything that they do that is helping their mental health. And Andy's Man Club is an absolutely fantastic step in there. It is a great thing, and people shouldn't, that stigma needs to be blown away.
I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you
you wanna play tough and wanna hate